All right, should we get started, everybody? All right, well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. We want to, let's get started with our welcome to our community conversations. This is being hosted by the Autodesk community. These are a new live virtual event designed to allow you to gain expertise, connect with leaders, and grow your community network. My name is Chris, and I'm going to be your community host today. We are joined today by the very talented Tiffany Bachmeier, and she will be discussing all things AutoCAD Electrical with an open Q&A.
Thank you so much, Chris.
You're welcome. Let's start with a couple of introductions. First, myself, I'm Chris Benner. I'm the Community Manager for Product Design and Manufacturing here at Autodesk. I've been with Autodesk for just under a year. Coming from a background of being a user and customer for a little over 20 years, including a little bit of AutoCAD Electrical. In fact, I took Tiffany's classes at AU a few times to learn how to use AutoCAD Electrical. I am a former expert elite. I was an expert elite for 8 years before I joined Autodesk. Autodesk University speaker 14 times since 2014, and I am based in Stanford, Michigan. Tiffany, you want to take it from there?
Absolutely. So thank you so much for that intro, Chris, and welcome everybody to our refreshed and I think far more exciting office hours than we've been having for the last couple of years. So good to see so many of your names back in this list. Great to see you again. Sorry for the couple month delay. I know I promised during AU we were going to be rebranding these and refreshing them. Took us a little bit of time to get going. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to all of you who sent some emails and some requests to me saying, hey, are they coming back? When are they coming? So thank you for being patient. The amazing team of Rachel, Kate, and Chris on this call have helped me immensely in bringing these. In fact, they did it all to bringing these back to you. So I am super grateful to them and the entire community team for bringing this together. And I hope that you all enjoy this new forum. It's fun already for me to just see your faces. We couldn't do that before. So it's really nice to have this new open forum. As Chris said, I have been leading these for a while. We obviously rebranded them and are bringing them to you in a new platform and in a new way. I lead our manufacturing consulting team for the Americas here at Autodesk. I have been at Autodesk for 6 years, but in the channel before that for almost 10. I have spoken at AU many times, and AutoCAD Electrical is still my passion. Even though it is not my day job anymore, it is still my passion, and I'm always excited to bring these meetings to you and to be able to have the open Q&A that we've been doing for all of these years. We've always talked about kind of changing it, maybe starting to do more presentations and other series, which we still are looking at doing, but often you all email me and just beg for more Q&A time. So we want to make sure we give that to you. And that's what we'll do today. So you can start asking questions in any forum you want. You can do it via the chat. I know we don't have the question pane that we had in the past. I wanted to be able to have a bit more of the benefits of Autodesk Zoom meetings versus the webinar form, so we could see each other and do more of this. So bear with us on that. So we'll probably be in the chat window for most of these questions. But one of the other things that I wanted to announce, we are going to be doing the What's New in AutoCAD Electrical 2022 in the next meetup. So keep your eyes peeled for that one and stay tuned for that so that we can bring you some of those new updates in next month's webinar. I am typically joined as well, for those of you that are veterans of these webinars, with my colleague, Matt Durst. He often is the one fielding my questions for me, as well as providing you all of the Vault updates. So many of you guys have asked Vault questions along the way. He is not able to join us today, so just fair warning on that, but he will be back with us again next month as well.
Okay, before we dive into the meat of this, just a couple of ground rules we wanted to lay down for everyone. You are all muted to begin with to reduce all of the background noise. We do ask you, if you are comfortable doing so, please leave your camera on so that it'll feel a little bit more like we're all in the same place together. If you do have a question, you can use the raise hand tool on your Zoom toolbar, or you can post your question in the chat and we will be fielding those. This session is being recorded, and a link to the recorded session will be emailed to everyone who registered and will also be uploaded to our community conversation site when we're done. Now, we do want to show real quickly our safe harbor statement. This basically says that if we make any forward-looking statements in this session, please do not use these to make any purchasing decisions on the product. If you're making purchasing decisions, look at the software as it stands today in its current state and make your decision on that alone. So our new community conversations are a relaunch of the previously hosted customer success meetups. We want to provide opportunities for engineers, designers, artists, makers to meet in a safe, live, virtual setting to share expertise, get to know the leaders in your field, and grow your own personal community network. In this space, we're going to be bringing in expert speakers such as Tiffany. These could be Autodesk employees, customers, partners, or students to gather around knowledge sharing where questions and discussions will be sparked. And hopefully you can forge some new connections with both the speakers and with each other as attendees. These sessions are always going to be supported by your Autodesk community managers to help guide the conversation and also to feed important insights back from the community to Autodesk and support participants in getting connected to the expertise that you all need. So if you can send that link in the chat, or I will. Can you send that, Rachel? Thank you, Rachel. From there, I think I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Tiffany take over and do what she does best.
Thank you so much, and thanks for that intro. So hopefully you all see that this is an even more connected platform than we had before. I'm really excited about the opportunities it's going to be able to provide us for you all to start to meet with each other as well and be able to ask even more interactive live questions than we were able to do before. And as always, we're always happy to continue looking at new and better ways to be able to bring you even more information that you may be looking forward to in these sessions. So there may be opportunities to do sharing. You know, if you have something that you've done with electrical that you want to share out with these groups, I would love to see those come in as well. And if you ever want to join in and hosting with me, I'm also happy to have that happen. It does not need to be a Tiffany show. I would love to be able to have more of you jump in. And in fact, if there's questions that somebody else asks and if I start to answer them and you have ideas or you've done something similar, I would love to see you all jump into that conversation even more. These truly are community conversations. So as much as I want to bring expertise and help to any of you, as always, from beginner, intermediate to advanced questions, I also want this to be a really interactive session. Before it was pretty much me talking at you and you guys only being able to type to me. And I really want this opportunity for us all to communicate and converse a bit more. I see some longtime experts on here that I know well. I'll call out Randy Brunette being on here, a very esteemed AutoCAD electrical expert. And so I would love to have, you know, Randy, as always, anytime if you want to jump in and add additional comments or thoughts or clarity, I'd love to have you jump in too.
The only thing I have to say to Randy is go Lions. He always put up the Packers logo in his AU classes. So
of course he did. Wisconsin based right there. That's amazing. So now that
there are only two kinds of football fans, Green Bay Packer ones and everybody else.
Now hold on. We're going to start an all-out war in this community conversation very quickly. All right, good deal. So as always, and I know that we had a bit of a longer intro there, but if you guys start having questions, if you want to, if anybody's watching the chat right now, I love all of the, the messages coming in. If you guys want to start asking questions in the chat, we're happy to do that as we talked about, or as Chris mentioned, happy to unmute you and have you be able to ask your questions live. So anything that's been, I know we've not been together for about 3 months, so any burning questions from the last 3 months that you guys have really wanted answered? Oh, Chris just said that he was actually embarrassed to be a Lions fan. Come on, you got to be a fan of the Lions no matter what. That's those of us out of Michigan.
That's the sad thing. You're a fan no matter what happens.
Exactly.
You're in it for the long haul, or you're just out. Period.
Exactly. Any questions? I know we often start a bit slow like this, and some of you may be brand new to this. So if you are, welcome for the first time of joining us. The way these have been running for the last couple of years is just open Q&A. So you come at me rapid fire with any questions that you have, and I will plow through them in order as fast as I can to cover everyone's questions. You're often encouraged to share your screen if you have something specific that you want to be able to share. We have been able to do that in the past, but this is even more flexible now to be able to allow you to share your video, share your microphone, all of that. So would love to just have those conversations. And maybe we'll have to just start throwing out some polls for people. I'd love to see how many people are actively using AutoCAD Electrical today. Can you guys use your raise of your hand in the Zoom meeting just to tell me how many people are actively using electrical today?
We actually did get one question, Tiffany.
Oh, did you?
In the chat. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Are there any electrical utilities that use AutoCAD for planning their infrastructure? Okay, so Claire just asked, are there any electrical utilities which use AutoCAD Electrical for planning their infrastructure? So this would probably be a great question for Randy with his SBS logo behind him, but yes, this is actually a very common practice in the utility industry now, and there's an entire consortium that's actually leading many of the different CAD packages. That's not the reason for it, but there are CAD packages involved in it that involve both Inventor and AutoCAD Electrical in the design of the infrastructure and the substations. And Randy, if you want to talk about anything else on there, I'd love to hand it to you. You're on mute.
Muted. I had myself unmuted, so somehow I got muted.
You got
again.
remuted. Yeah.
I got remuted. So yes, that's what my company does, SBS. We create the SDS, that stands for Substation Design System Toolkit, specifically for those two products that you mentioned. And we're also coming out with a new product, P4A, Physical for AutoCAD, that's going to be based on AUD, which creates the 3D models inside of AutoCAD. So the tools are there. They greatly help and speed up the design processes of using AutoCAD Electrical. I'll even point out that there are several people here on the call that are currently using the tools as customers. So Matthew Heat, Praveen Patel could also maybe throw in some color for that to give you some examples about how they help. Obviously, I'm kind of jaded, right? They're the greatest tools ever. Everybody should be using them, but you know, you can get more honest opinions from them, and I'm anxious to hear what they'd have to say as well.
Yes, we do use the SDS tools on the physical side, the 3D, and on the protection and controls schematic side. We have yet to integrate the two together, although that is our plan. Ultimately, we want to do a full integration and to produce ultimately wiring harness from the physical side from the substation back into the AAA enclosure and to the panels, and having the capability to do that with the SDS tools and AutoCAD Electrical, tying from the terminals on the panels to the terminals on the control cabinets, utilizing the AutoCAD Electrical and SDS tools together is going to be very nice. And we're still in the process of implementing our entire package and getting everything tied together. But that's our plan ultimately.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear. Great to hear where you are in your journey of that. So it'll be interesting as these communications go on in these conversation groups. It'll be interesting to hear how you guys are evolving in that and the newer things that are coming up as you do embark on that journey further. So that's fantastic. You're in great hands with Randy though. So that's good.
I have lots of questions with Randy over the past couple of years so far.
Good. I think Praveen, did you want to say something too?
Yeah, hi Tiffany, good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
So we've implemented AutoCAD Electrical for Southern Company. It's been about 2 years, and now we're just training people to get everybody on board. And so yeah, it's been a lot of SBS tools, ACADE as well. And down the road, we're also planning to do the same thing Matthew mentioned, integrate inventor and electrical together, but right now we're not there yet.
Yeah, and for anybody listening that's not using the substation design toolkits that work on top of electrical and inventor, you can still, if you're interested in hearing about that interaction, that's some of the things that I often end up talking about in these meetings. AutoCAD Electrical and Inventor do talk directly to one another now. There is not an export import that you have to do anymore. There is a direct connection between the two packages, and there is a lot of interest in that over the last couple of years. We call it the EMX workflow, the electromechanical workflow, and there's a lot happening with it as people want to really move to a 3D aspect of doing all their wire routing and not only panel design but full layout design to really see, perhaps you're doing I think one of the most common things that you often see is there's actually a demo set that we have for a car seat where you can see the wire harnesses and where that actually gets routed through underneath the car body to be able to handle that power seat, and just doing things like that. So think of those applications. It doesn't always have to be just a enclosure panel that we're routing things through. It can be any aspect of electrical wiring that you want to show in 3D. And even though AutoCAD has 3D, we often want to marry that into our mechanicals that our mechanical teams are designing, and that's often in a package like Inventor. So in case you were curious, you can do that too.
With the Inventor 2022 now, there also are the instance level properties that have been added. That was an idea that I put in the idea station a few years ago when I was using Inventor to lay out a panel and had 150 terminals in it and was not able to give each terminal its own unique tag number. So you're welcome.
Yay, Chris, that's awesome. Fantastic. All right, there was one question here. I think it came privately to me about more courses at AU for AutoCAD Electrical. I know that last year with it being the global Autodesk University, if any of you don't know what that is, every year Autodesk hosts a big event, and actually we typically host it in multiple locations called Autodesk University. The typically largest flagship one has historically been out of Vegas, Las Vegas, Nevada. We are actually moving it around to different locations, of course, because of COVID. We actually went to a full online platform for it last year. And with that said, we merged all of the AUs. So the different Autodesk universities that would have been all around the globe all became one giant one that we did all virtually. With that, they had to cut significantly down the amount of classes that would have happened worldwide. And so AutoCAD Electrical only had about 2. I think this being one of them. The community conversation was, then it was actually just my meetup, but we did it as a special hosted one during Autodesk University. We are hoping to get more in this year. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I don't have a say in that, but I do know the people who are involved in it. And so I am trying to encourage that we perhaps get a bit more of a footprint for AutoCAD Electrical in there. As you can imagine, though, there are so many classes, so many different languages we're trying to cover, and so many different aspects of classes from beginner, intermediate to advanced for all of the different software packages that we have at Autodesk, that it's very hard to get a really big footprint for something like electrical out there. Because if you think about the use cases of how many people use that versus say how many people use Revit or Inventor, they have to balance that. But I absolutely hope to get us more classes than we had last year. I think we have a strong opportunity to get that to happen this year. So duly noted on that question, and thank you for that. And I will share that with the AU speaker team to be able to hopefully get some more in there.
We did have some more in the chat.
Yep, I'm scrolling through. Yep.
One from Thomas Kramer.
That's where I'm at. Yeah, thank you so much for keeping me there.
Sure.
So this comment says, and I want to understand this, so maybe Thomas, I'll ask for you to explain a little bit deeper. It says there's still no way to have multiple footprints linked to the same schematic symbol. For example, we could have an MCP that has a panel footprint and then also a handle that could go on a cabinet layout. So I think I understand it, but in general, just so that everybody understands this, the way that footprints are typically tied to a schematic symbol is by the part number. So as soon as you assign a part number to the schematic symbol, that tells me exactly what footprint should be inserted in whatever my layout design is. And for those of you that may be newer to electrical, know that we use the term panel very loosely in the sense that it is a physical representation of whatever device it is that you're inserting. It may not be on a panel. I started my career in conveyor design, and that could have been where I'm actually placing the physical component on the actual conveyor in my panel design. So just know that that's a loose, for any of you that are newer to it, just to understand that that's a loose terminology of that. It doesn't mean you have to be on enclosure panels. But to that point, you can tie multiple part numbers to a particular schematic symbol. The thing is, you are going to default only to inserting whatever the main part number is. So if there are multiple part numbers that you need, or multiple footprints you want tied back to that particular device, we can do it in some creative ways. But I'd love to know maybe a little bit more about what you're trying to achieve. Or Randy, perhaps you have ideas of what this might be.
I unmuted.
Oh, good, perfect.
Yeah, so typically we assembly code assembly list in the
Yep.
additional handle part numbers and stuff, so
Sure.
people don't forget that it's needed.
Yes.
Because we ran into that issue plenty in the past,
Yeah.
where engineers would put the MCP on the panel and then just, you would never have a through door handle, so no way to turn it off.
Right.
So that's why. And so all of the part numbers are linked into one schematic symbol, as opposed to, you know, not having a schematic symbol for a handle and then just putting it as a footprint on the cabinet layout. You only have one schematic symbol that has every part number that you have, so that your report, you know, nothing gets forgotten. And then, you know, all of those kind of show up in that first, the panel layout itself,
Okay.
you know, the actual MCP itself. And then there's no great way to drop the handle doing that in our method. And maybe that's just the faultiness in our method.
I'm actually wondering if multiple catalog instead of assembly code assembly list might give you more opportunities, or do you just make it its own individual device so that you can tie, you could still tie them to each other, but have it insert so it can be inserted separately as its own part number in the panel itself?
Yeah, that's I think the way that you would have to go about it. I think we've tried multi-cat, but that still comes in on the BOM report.
It does.
And that
Yep.
way, then if they then drop, you know, the handle itself on the cabinet layout, well, that also comes in on that report.
And now it's getting
so
double
now you've
counted.
got twice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So to me, with that exact situation, that the only time you really use multiple catalog, or even the assembly code assembly list, when you really want it tied to that part number every time, which we could dive into that in a different conversation, but I prefer multi-cat over all of the tying of assembly codes and assembly lists, because I think it creates a much muddier catalog database when you have to have those, especially if you're not using them every time with those assembly codes associated with them, because then you often have multiple instances of those in there to have it with and without.
We do.
Yeah, see, so I like the multi-cat better because you can have up to 99 additional part numbers, but those are literally for part numbers that you want to be able to pull into the BOM, but not display those on screen as an actual block or device. If you have that, I actually think it should be its own device ID and its own line item. That would be my advice.
Okay.
I guess it all kind of
Okay.
depends on how your purchasing system accepts
Yeah.
that too, though. It's all
That's a
about how
mess
you're
too.
doing
We
your
don't get into
export.
that.
Fair enough. Because one of the biggest benefits, again, for any of you who don't utilize all of these tools yet, when you put those items into your BOM, the goal is that your full bill of material can come out of AutoCAD Electrical and actually be transferred into whatever your ERP system is. We have 5 different file formats that we can export to, and your ERP system can accept that. So you're not manually recreating all of those. You can have it talk to it. And I have some advanced customers who have actually created direct links to their ERP systems right in Electrical too. So there's that option too, if you wanted to. But typically what most people do is just use any one of those 5 exports, because most of the ERP systems can suck them in. So it would also depend on how your ERP system needs to read that. But that's interesting.
I'll jump in here too.
Yeah.
That it does depend also on where you want to get the bill of material information from.
Right.
The schematic is typically more of a prelim bill of material, And most companies end up grabbing the bill of material from the panel because the panel, as Tiffany mentioned earlier, includes all of the physical components. So it would be the enclosure, mounting hardware, DIN rail, wire ducts, all of those things that don't show up on the schematic at all. So typically the schematic would be used for preliminary bill of material. So you get your long lead time items that you know are going to be used, but the final one that actually goes out for ordering would come out of the physical drawings. So that might also determine how you want to set up the bill of materials and your part catalog. Because now, again, on the physical side, you might want to insert a block that just shows as the fuse block, as an example, and you'd put 3 fuses into it. Well, those would be kept more separate than you might do in the schematic. So it really, all of that kind of, you have to make a lot of decisions about how you really want to get your bill of material generated.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
So then the next question I'm seeing here, is there a way to fix the sort type when you are selecting a parent? It appears every time I go into pick a parent from a list, I need to keep reselecting the sort type. So help me, I'm assuming you're, and this is to Todd, I'm assuming you're inserting a child device. You then want to tie that back to the parent. You are not, the parent or another sibling is not on the same page. So you're not able to just use the click select. And so you're saying, clicking on the project, you're looking for all available parents in the project. Is that what you're referring to? If you can either unmute or you can feel free to type in the
I
chat.
sent him an
Yes, he
ask
said
to
yes.
unmute request, but oh, okay. All
Okay,
right.
I think you just wrote back to me here.
Okay,
All right,
got
so that makes sense. The typically, and this is where I want to understand what you're having to sort through. So typically then when you do that, it will give you all, let's say you're putting in a control relay and it's a child contact to that. So it's going to give you all possible relay coils that would go with that. Now, if you're looking for a different parent type, you do have to go out and tell it to research for a different parent type, because they will always try to mirror the child types to the type of parent. So if it's a CR child type, it's looking for another control relay named CR. If for some reason you're using, say, a motor control relay, which is actually labeled differently, it's labeled with an M instead, it's not looking for that parent type. So you may have to resort. In that case, you do always have to, because it's always filtering on specifically the parents that are most likely connected to that child. Now, there is ways to hack into the system to tell it to search different kinds of family codes per child device every time it's inserted. So I don't know if that's what you're thinking, or if you're actually genuinely talking about just the sorting of the different pages that may have the different parent types on it. Of that, I don't know of a constant hold that we can give you on that. It's going to always sort through the project on the exact parent types that are associated with that child's contact. So it's a great question, and maybe a good suggestion if there's something there that we can share back with the product team of a potential hold. I know we've done some recent updates in some dialog boxes where your last sorts have been saved. For instance, the inserting a panel footprint from a schematic list that actually remembers your last sort now. So there are some of those steady constants for sorting. So perhaps that's another dialog box that could we could suggest that. I have to scroll to see if you've responded at all. Sorry. Yeah, when you pull up the CRs, you can sort by sheets, location, etc. But every time I have to select it. Yeah. So that's just not a steady constant. Like I said, some of our other dialog boxes do have that sorting hold. It's a great feedback opportunity to share with the product team of perhaps another dialog box that could really utilize that. My advice for anybody listening, I often like to, you can't always do it, but my advice is if there is if the parent is on that same sheet, or if there is another child's contact already associated with that parent, just find that on the same sheet and use the click to select. It's a lot faster than having to sort by all of those lists. Just a little tip there. All right. Sorry, I am scrolling a lot to try to go in order of everybody's. Mark, great to hear from you. Glad that you're excited to see that these are back up again. Okay, so that was just a general comment. Thanks, Mark. Just looking forward to seeing the updates to ACADE as people use it on a daily basis. And always appreciate, Mark, any of your insights and thoughts. So feel free to jump on here. You are a resident expert as well. So thank you so much for that comment. Claire, you said at the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, you're an engineering designer and you use LDP or LD ProLine for distribution infrastructure, that system that feeds the substation. Okay. Some spoke on wanting to use AutoCAD products instead of LD Pro, but cybersecurity was often cited as a reason not to. Any words on cyber issues these days with newer AutoCAD software? So that's interesting. Randy, I don't know if you have been addressing this from SBS's side, but that's to be honest, Claire, I don't often hear of cybersecurity challenges with AutoCAD or any of our verticals within AutoCAD. That's what we call things like electrical architecture and all of that. Typically, we normally hear of those questions more with all of our cloud-based software. That tends to be more where there are questions around cybersecurity, and we could definitely speak to those things as well. Good to see you. Now I see you.
I no longer work at SMED, by the way.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I had followed up with AutoCAD classes after leaving SMED.
Sure.
And still experienced some cyber issues dealing with educational based.
Okay.
Revit, AutoCAD. So I wondered more after that. You know, I've been hesitant more because of that experience.
So I can tell you that Autodesk takes cybersecurity very, very seriously. And there's a lot of things that we're doing to protect our software, to protect the logging into it. I mean, that's a lot of why there are the login capabilities of what we have where you're a named user, much like you would do if you log into any other platform that you have. You still install AutoCAD on your own computer. It's not run out of a cloud-based system like that. So I would think that your security systems as well are strong there. I'm curious what maybe you've been reading or what and we can follow up separately. I'd be happy to dig in with our product team to get you those answers. I am not a cybersecurity expert, but I'm happy to get those answers for you. I'm like I said, I'm much more used to kind of discussing that around more of our cloud-based products like Fusion and some of the BIM 360 products and things like that. I don't often hear that as a challenge with AutoCAD. So I would love to know maybe where you're seeing those things, and not even with Revit either, with which you brought up, which is very interesting. And I would love to dig into it to help maybe answer some of those. So if you have more info, maybe shoot me an email and I'd be happy to dig into it more with our product teams and come back to this to everybody. I can share out the answers from the product team to you.
Thank you. That would be encouraging because it was very discouraging to notice some things. So I would really like that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. I will absolutely dig into that. So please send me whatever info you have or what you saw that was concerning to you, and I'd be happy to share with that and then get your answers back to you.
Just a quick note on the component listing.
Mm-hmm.
We use Epicor currently for our software.
Sure.
We are actively looking at using location as a field with a third-party software.
Okay.
To separate it out as an assembly number, literally, because our system says we have 25 assemblies. Well, which is which? We have the enclosure, we have the frame, we have the control box, we have the operator panel box, etc.
Okay.
We're working with an external vendor on that, and it's proving to be very interesting. We're basically mapping external data and an external data field in their software, I should say, to our location field. So it should be interesting if it's something that works out well for us. So,
and then you can use all the filtering tools within electrical to filter on those location.
Yes. The other
thing,
that's
cool.
The other thing I was thinking about is when you guys are putting everything together, I've heard a dozen requests from people for SCCR ratings on components.
Okay.
It's something that we have to add an external attribute into our block at this point. And we could, if that were captured, we can do an export. But as it is now, we've got how many component blocks with which we'd have to put that attribute into to more or less automatically have that generated.
Well, remember, you can put ratings 1 through 9 into any device, and you could have that come in even as X data to live on the device to be able to pull out of it.
1
Randy,
through
you look
12.
That's right, 1 through 12. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, so you wouldn't necessarily have to insert that attribute on every one of your new blocks if you didn't want it displayed on screen.
I see that's the whole thing is it's not something we're necessarily trying to show on screen, but we want to extract that report.
Yeah, then you would not need to do that. You could utilize that already with the capabilities that has and carry through and extract that anytime needed.
Okay. They were bringing that discussion up this morning, and I thought there's got to be a better way for us to do this than editing 150 different blocks per library.
Yeah, I would not do that. That sounds cumbersome.
Okay.
No, I think there's a lot of ways you could get that updated quickly in those fields. And a lot of times that can actually be read off of the part number. So you could go in and tell I'm not going to say it perfectly because it's not rolling off my tongue. The text value column inside of the catalog database, where you can have it be, rating 1 equals, and then you make it whatever you want that code to be, and you put that right into the catalog number, and that will jump into any device you assign that catalog to. So you don't have to go through and update those blocks. You just do it in the catalog database.
Okay.
Which is probably makes more sense because that's a rating type that you would have tied to a particular part number. So
exactly.
Yeah, I would strongly encourage you to do it through the catalog database and not have to worry about all the individual blocks.
Well, so that's the issue, because right now we've got people that are still working on 2019, and we're looking at moving up, and there's too many variations between applications. Somebody's got theirs installed in this directory, somebody else in another, and we don't. Yeah.
For anybody listening who has not who's tried to manually move electrical around for multiple people being connected to it, strongly encourage you to utilize the ability to create a deployment for AutoCAD Electrical, and you preset up where you want all of those catalogs and all of those support files and databases to be on a network drive so that everybody's pointing to the same one, so you don't have what Mark just described. That's unfortunate if you have some people on multiple different versions and they're all kind of working independently. That's a tough
even
situation.
Worse than that is when you have no direct guidance from IT as to where it goes, because they'll come in and install on this machine today, that machine tomorrow, that machine next week, and then that deployment is something I've been pushing for years, and I'm hoping with 2022 coming out that we upgrade to it, and then we can just say, here it is.
And do that for everybody. Yeah.
Yes.
And if that's a great opportunity for everybody on this call, just to kind of talk about opportunities with your account manager. So if you know who your Autodesk account manager is, or you have contact with that team, a lot of times that happens if they're just working in IT, or your IT team just gets that and they think they can roll it out like they roll out any other Autodesk software. As many of you who probably have already been using it, but if I have any newbies on here who are just now wanting to get into it, the beauty of electrical is that it comes with so many powerful support files, including our catalog databases, including all of the different libraries that we carry and all of the different standards, that you have to actually go in and configure the software when you first install it. If you don't, you just get a base install. It doesn't cost any more. There's no additional charge. You just have to choose what you're going to install. And if you don't, you only get a fraction of everything electrical has. And it's so important to work with, when I would go out in my previous years of consulting, whenever I would go out to actually do an install or to help do an implementation of electrical with a customer, I would work with the IT team and I would say, you cannot install this before I come out. I need to show you everything that you need to choose. And I actually need your team, very opposite of most software packages. I would actually encourage teaching my training classes to the team before I implemented it and installed it so that they would know what libraries they wanted to choose, how they wanted to choose installing, where catalog databases and support files go, and what those configuration choices might be, because they have then a better understanding of what the software can do and not just letting IT choose that, and then really coming together as a partnership with your IT team to say, you know, let's build this deployment together so that we can make sure everyone, and it will be easier for you to manage to the IT team as well as for all of the electrical team members. And if you have quite a few people in your company that you're working with on this, it's also really great to have somebody set up as a librarian, or a couple people set up as a librarian who's really the owner of the catalog databases and the symbol library, so that you don't just have 30, 40, 50 people all creating their own catalog entries and their own symbols. You're going to have a much cleaner setup if you just give that to a core group and then let everybody else just get to utilize and consume that in that shared format. So really great points. And thanks, Mark, for bringing that up, because I actually think that's a great learning opportunity for some others. And if we can help you, Mark, with your team, we're happy to get in front of your IT team and help you through that too. We can be your advocates for why that needs to happen with 2022. All right.
I'll add that the 2022 install is much simpler. That whole configuration window appears to be gone. So I haven't really checked to see if everything is being installed automatically.
That's true. 2022. Yes, that's true. We'll have to talk about that in the meeting next month to just kind of help everybody through that. That's a good call out.
Just as a side note on your librarian issue, Tiffany, yes, we are actively working with probably 10 people who don't honestly have a clue as to what attributes, how to set them up, and so forth.
Exactly.
They're setting up 2 of us to take care of this, and that's why I'm asking about adding in some way SCCR rating, because if you just turn it loose. But yeah, if at some point, if you have a chance, can I email you or talk to you at some point about some of this stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, and Kevin, and don't worry about saying total rookie question. You don't ever have to say that. We love all questions from all vantage points. Is there much use using this for cables in a cable tray throughout an industrial plant and motor schematics, or is there a different product we should be looking at? Okay, so you can. I would typically say that if I'm understanding what you're describing, is probably more of an MEP utilization of it. And in that case, we do have MEP products that would probably be better suited for what you're trying to do. Revit has MEP tools for running all electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. That's obviously, for anybody who doesn't know what that stands for on this call, that's the aspects of it. There is also an AutoCAD MEP built for that. I have seen people in the architectural industry utilize AutoCAD Electrical for specific types of schematics that they need to be able to get in, but they don't speak to one another. So our electrical package is really made for industrial machinery, and it's much more made for connecting. And then obviously with what we've done with the utility industry and what the SDS toolkit does through SBS, utilized there, but it's not often as heavily used in that kind of architectural standpoint, just because there are other products that are going to speak more directly to Revit. Now, the twist is Inventor and Revit talk to each other. So if you want to do something in electrical, have that run 3D wise through, but you could bring your Revit model into Inventor and then do that routing from electrical to Inventor. So you can actually make that 3-way connection. It's much easier now because of the interoperability between Revit and Inventor, and then Inventor and electrical, but there's nothing that takes electrical directly to Revit or anything else like that you may be using for more of that plant design. There's obviously Plant 3D as well that has a lot of those tools in it, depending on what it is that you're looking for. So we have a lot of products that might be able to help you. Electrical may work for you in that case, but it may not be probably the top use case for it. So great question. Thank you for asking it. Praveen, I think you were still writing about the, I'm sorry, I'm going in order through this list about the child parent sorting list where you said that it also lists other children where you really just want to match the parent. Okay. Yeah, so there are ways to sort through some of those, or to say, show me all, you know, unmatched or open. You can do those things, but yeah, it doesn't hold those constants back to our earlier conversation. So great opportunity to maybe update that. Jeff, hi, good to see you. Great to see that you have a question coming in here. This is an admin question. We are moving our AutoCAD Electrical virtual environment from Citrix to Azure. Okay, we have noticed our new VM Azure environment, many graphics displays issues. Does Autodesk support ACADE running on a VM Azure environment? If supported, are there recommendations to successfully do this? So this is a great question, and one I don't have all the answers to. Let me check with our product team and see if I can get you any of those recommendations or possible support opportunities for that one. So let me check with the product team directly, and I will get back to you on that. I can message you, Jeff.
All right, thank you.
Unless anybody else is doing that today and wants to talk about anything that they've done. Anybody else have? All right, well, we'll come back to it if anybody does. And I think, Claire, we answered that one, so great, that's perfect. So Thomas, yeah, we have used ratings 12 as a default across multiple families just to let it be stored as X data. Go backwards from the last one, since 1 through 4 are used for other things in various families. So back to, yeah, so Mark, back to your comment, I think that was just an extra +1 from Thomas on the utilizing of the ratings 1 through 12. Agreed, so many things use basically 1 through 4, potentially maybe some things even into 5 and 6. So great to go backwards instead, because you know you're probably safe not using ratings 12, and then working backwards from that. So really good call out on that, Thomas, and thank you for sharing that you're using it as X data. That's perfect. So I think I do still think that's probably your best bet, Mark, with the request that you had there. Pete, let's see, that would take care of so many issues that occur in installation or update of ACADE. So I'm not sure quite what that one referenced, but glad that whatever it was, it referenced back to it. So that's super helpful. That's fantastic. Sorry, I'm getting these a little bit out of order. And Donald said we use the user fields for the SCCR and torque ratings. Yep, and they're pulled into the BOM. Yeah, so that's another great thing. So you can use the ratings field, or you could use the user 1, 2, 3 fields. So many of you probably know in the catalog database there are 3 columns or 3 areas you can edit in the catalog that are completely open to anything you need. That's why we call them user fields. They're for you, the user, to be able to utilize for whatever you want. Often people rename user 1 and actually make it their own personal catalog number. So, you know, if I'm Autodesk, if I have my own part number for something that's Alan Bradley, I might call it my Autodesk 1, 2, 3, right? So that I might have my own part number that associates with whatever the manufacturer part number is. That's often where we see those user fields get used, but they can be for anything. So I love that, Donald. That's awesome that that's what you're using some of those ratings options for. So great call out. Hal, all right. Talking about upgrading, I am running 2019. My laptop was upgraded from Windows 7 to 10. This allows me to now upgrade to 2021. Is upgrading as simple as installing 2021? Luckily, I'm still in the process of learning electrical, so I've not done a ton of real projects. So copying or moving my training files won't be much of an issue. One of the issues that prevented me from upgrading was the database. 2019 used Access, and I believe 2021 uses a subset of SQL. Do you see any possible issues that may pop up, especially when running a laptop with 64 gig? Yeah, okay. So great question, Hal. So here's, yay. So here is the answer to all of that. So the catalog database can still be done in both Access or SQL. You have both options. And actually that started in 2017. So we started answering a lot of our large enterprise customers' requests that they wanted a more SQL-based database. And so that option went in there, but you still have full ability to use the Access databases as well. So no fear on that one. That should not stop you if you want to keep using Access. To the upgrading, for everybody to know this is the most important thing when you're upgrading with electrical. One of my favorite tools that we have is actually a migration utility. Don't uninstall your old version of the software before you install the new one. So install the new one, and then you go into the migration utility, and in there you say you want to choose to migrate. It will find all other installs of the software. So it'll say, I see a 2019, I see a 2018, I see a 2017. You choose which one you want from the drop down that it has. And then in there, it shows you all files that you may want to migrate over. So it's basically everything you can imagine in support files, catalogs, symbol libraries, all of that. The key to it is don't just hit the OK button now. Okay, make sure you go into each one of those fields and choose what you want them to do. Catalog database from 19 to catalog database 2022. You probably want to do a merge of some sort. So you can either copy over, you can just say, I want to override 2022 with 2019. I don't recommend that because then you're going to miss out all the new things. But you also don't want to lose what you've put as your own custom things inside of 2019. So you would instead do a merge where you would find it merging the two databases. Now you can also decide what does it do when it finds a duplicate. So if in 2022, the same catalog entry is in 2019, does it keep 19 or does it keep 2022? You would, in most cases, want to keep the 19 version because you might have done your own user ratings on it or your own additional rate. You might have edited the catalog database to do that. So you need to make decisions like that in that migration utility. And then all of those things will migrate those over and merge them in the new 2022 files so that you don't have to do it manually. The worst thing you can do, and I have seen this with like quite a few customers over the years, is just move all the stuff from an old version into the new version and not get all the benefits of the new version things. It can be done and you can do it that way, but you end up down the line losing functionality of the newer software. So you're far better in those things if you merge them than if you just override with the old stuff because you don't want to lose the old things, if that makes sense. It's a great question and I'm really glad.
So I still have a little more add-on to that. So the whole SQL Access thing, am I losing any benefits by keeping the Access world? I'm just worried about computer power. So my laptop's 5 years old. I know SQL takes a lot more oomph than the Access does. So I was just wondering, am I losing anything?
Is it just you utilizing
Me, myself,
it?
and I, just the three of us.
You don't need SQL.
Okay.
I would just use Access.
Okay.
SQL is for a much larger enterprise install where they're wanting to manage and maintain it via a SQL database than an Access. I mean, it doesn't have to be for that, but that's often where we saw the most desire for that. I genuinely don't think you need a SQL instance.
And that's a choice in the setup when you're installing
Yes.
it, you can say which one you want?
Yes.
Okay. So the next question is also pertaining, so I have electrical and standard AutoCAD at this point on my machine. And the guy that handles all their subscriptions for us says that he was talking to AutoCAD and they say, oh, it's all one thing now. And I think we talked about this a while ago. So when I do this upgrade now, so I'm only going to have one. So one of them goes away.
Yep, you don't need it. So everything in AutoCAD Electrical is AutoCAD. And you can change your workspaces. You can change your user interface to be more of all your AutoCAD palettes that you want to be able to see if you're in AutoCAD mode versus if you're in an electrical design and you want the full project manager along with everything else that you're doing. You can toggle between those. You don't need two totally separate instances of AutoCAD running on your computer. AutoCAD Electrical is AutoCAD. It just has everything AutoCAD plus everything in the tool set. And you could, like I said, you can update your user interface to have, you can toggle between those just to make it look like you're just in AutoCAD versus just in,
Once I install my 2021, possibly 22.
Go for the 22.
And go for the 20, and do the migration utility and get everything over and feel warm and fuzzy that I've done everything right.
Yep.
I can go and uninstall both AutoCAD and AutoCAD Electrical 2019.
Correct. Now, if you have CUIs that you use, if you have customized user interfaces for your vanilla AutoCAD, you can bring those over into 2022 as well so that you can have that at. Just make sure you don't override the electrical one because that would be
So
ugly.
we're still pretty basic, and I put, I did 20 AutoCAD electrical last year, and then the whole world stopped and my training budget went away. So
Got it.
so
I'll throw in a quick
I need to
comment
start up
there.
again, so.
If you install AutoCAD Electrical, you'll also see a startup routine for AutoCAD that's automatically starts it just plain AutoCAD. So
exactly. Yeah.
when they say there's one AutoCAD, when you install any one of those products, there's going to be startups for all of them available to you. So you can always easily pick between each one. The other thing I'll mention is when if you choose the SQL database, the number one reason people wanted the SQL database was for replication.
Yep.
When they had separate offices and they wanted to make sure that the part catalog database stayed synced between the offices, SQL allows for replication of that between the different areas automatically. Other than that, speed-wise functionality, Access and SQL is pretty much the same.
Got it. Thanks.
All right. And with that, thank you so much, Randy. And with that, I know we are out of time. I'm sorry to Rachel, Chris, and Kate that I did not get you 3 minutes to spare. But yes, I will I will hand it over to you guys for closeouts on these.
Okay, so I just threw up our slides again with the reminders of the next sessions that Tiffany's going to be hosting, and I should be there with her for most, if not all of these. So it's going to be the second Thursday of every month at the same time, and you can RSVP for these now on our community conversation site. So we'll hope to see you all again. And if you're looking for other ways to engage with us in the Autodesk community, here are some resources that we'd like to share with you. You can check out the Autodesk Group Network, our industry-focused communities, of course, our Autodesk forums, and follow us on social media such as Twitter. Rachel, if you would please post the links in the chat if they're not already there. And with that, a huge thank you to all of you for coming today and joining us in our new revitalized community conversations. We welcome your feedback on this session. There should be a survey going up in the chat right about now that you can use to tell us what you think. And again, join us at the next one. We hope to see you real soon.
Thank you all so much. Great to see you.